Are you a recent uni graduate looking for your first job in corporate? Or are you a nurse or pharmacist wondering what it's like to work in the pharmaceutical industry? Maybe you've even gone a step further and already started to apply, but been frustrated or disheartened at being ghosted or being told you don't have enough experience. Well, you've come to the right channel. In this video, you'll learn about the different roles in pharma. You'll learn about the transferable skills and knowledge you need to highlight in your resume to stand out from the pack. And lastly, how to apply for entry-level jobs so that you can avoid accidentally doing this to ultimately feeling like this. Plus, watch to the very end and I'll give you one bonus controversial tip on what not to do when applying and trying to get into the pharmaceutical industry. Now, before we get into the easy 3-step process, let me give you an overview of how a pharmaceutical company is structured. So broadly speaking, a pharmaceutical company will have 3 arms. The first one being commercial, the second medical, the third one support functions. What I mean by commercial is largely sales, marketing. In medical, I'm talking about clinical research. I'm talking about regulatory affairs. We also have medical affairs, medical information, and pharmacovigilance. Support functions are things such as legal, IT, P&O, finance. For the purpose of this channel, we will only focus on the commercial and medical arms, as support functions are something outside of my scope of expertise. But if you do sit in one of these functions and are willing to share your insights, please reach out, as I'd love to have you on the channel. So you're probably wondering, what do each of these functions do? Let's start with the commercial arm. The sales function are focused on seeing customers, and by customers I mean doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, and their role is to really help educate, share new clinical updates, and help these healthcare professionals understand how best to use and prescribe the medication they are looking after. The marketing team are an office-based role who largely look after strategy. They create material for the sales team to use. They will coordinate sponsorships, dinner meetings, and run training events. If we move over to the medical arm, in clinical research, the primary functions are to compile documentation for submission to ethics committees, to create internal tracking tools, to ensure studies are successfully implemented and conducted according to protocol, and to capture and document results from the clinical trials themselves. In regulatory affairs, this is largely focused on preparing and submitting regulatory applications to the TGA in Australia and MedSafe for New Zealand, and often the Reg Affairs teams in Australia will be responsible for both A and Z. You'll need to respond to questions from these bodies. In medical affairs, there's 2 types of roles. There's the office-based medical affairs role, which is usually titled scientific advisor, or it can be medical advisor. And in this role, it's really focused on interpreting, digesting, and advising internal stakeholders on the scientific information related to the products of the company. Often that means cross-functional projects, so working with the commercial teams to aid in review and creation of educational material, promotional material, non-promotional material. The field-based medical role, also known as an MSL, is similar to the sales function. You're out there, you're seeing customers, and by customers I mean healthcare professionals, specialists, GPs, nurses, pharmacists, and helping them understand the clinical data around the products that you look after. The difference between an MSL and salesperson is MSLs can delve into off-label data. Now, in medical information and pharmacovigilance, these 2 roles go very hand in hand. Medical information, they receive inquiries from internal but largely external customers, and they will provide verbal or written responses to help support the appropriate use of medicines. Again, they only look after medicines related to the company they work for. Pharmacovigilance is all about drug safety. What they do is record, report, and follow up on any adverse events, and they'll compile this information accordingly. Again, support functions, pretty self-explanatory. Legal, look after all things related to legislation. P&O, recruitment, talent development, finance, managing money for the organization. Now, before we get into the 3 steps, which I believe will double your chances of getting into the pharmaceutical industry, and I say that because I too was in a similar position 8 years ago. I was an intern pharmacist, bored of doing the same repetitive tasks in community pharmacy, tired of being overworked and underpaid, and looking for something more. I was looking for something with variety, with challenge, with great working culture, with support, development, and ultimately still wanting to make a positive impact on society. And so the one thing you must do before getting into the 3 steps is a little self-assessment, and it's very important to have self-awareness, to know what your current strengths and areas for development are. Obviously, you will likely have more areas for development than strengths, but the point of this exercise is to focus on your strengths and really play to those strengths. The one key question I'd be asking myself is, where do I have an unfair advantage over others? Where do I have a moat? And so, for example, if we're coming back to this chart, let's say you're a commerce, business, or marketing graduate. Already having this educational background gives you a significant advantage to move into one of these commercial roles. On the medical front, if you studied health science, pharmacy, nursing, you are already at a significant advantage to move into one of these medical functions. Now, the 3 steps. Let's get straight into it. Number 1, fix up your resume and LinkedIn profile. As part of that, really highlight some of the transferable skills. The top 3 skills relevant to entry-level pharmaceutical roles are: number 1, time management; number 2, communication skills; and number 3, ability to learn, an ability to learn fast. For example, if you have a business or marketing degree, talk about the presentation skills that you developed from group work. Talk about how you work well under pressure to meet tight deadlines. Maybe you also worked in hospitality or retail, and so you can talk about how you're able to develop rapport and build relationships with strangers with ease, and that skill is immediately transferable into a sales role where day in, day out, you'll be meeting new people and having to build relationships with them. Maybe you're a nurse or pharmacist, and like I said, having that medical background, understanding how to educate people on dosing, side effects, drug interactions, that gives you a huge competitive advantage in going into a role in medical information or pharmacovigilance. So play to that advantage. My second piece of advice is just apply. Now, if you're a recent uni graduate, there are a number of excellent programs run by pharmaceutical companies that I would highly encourage you to apply for. 2 that I am well aware of are GSK's IBL program. Now, this particular program is more like an internship, and it is actually targeted towards university students in their penultimate year or final year of study. So intern pharmacists, you actually still qualify for this rule. And what's great about this program is it's a 12-month paid full-time work experience with roles across medical, commercial, and support functions. The intake is usually in January, with interviews starting from around June, July. So keep your eye out on this page for more information. The other program that I am aware of is Novartis's graduate program. This is an 18-month program, and it is aimed at people who have already finished university. Over the 18 months, you will do 3 6-month rotations, giving you really broad exposure to different functions in the business. And I think this is a great way to expose yourself to some of the different roles, because often it's quite difficult to know if the role is really for you without having rolled up your sleeves and tried it yourself. And as you can see here, the 3 key skills that I mentioned earlier that are highly transferable and highly sought after in the pharmaceutical industry are presentation skills, time management, communication. Now, outside of GSK and Novartis, I believe Bayer has a graduate program, and so too does Roche. So add these to your list as well. My big tip would be not all of them do January intakes, and even if they do a January intake, interviews usually start 6 months prior. So make sure you have all the important dates listed down, because you don't want to miss out on application dates. Now, at this stage, you might be thinking, David, I've already finished uni. Those programs sound great, but I'm too old to apply for those. Don't worry, I've got you covered. Let's go over some of the entry-level roles across commercial, across medical, that you can apply for. So in sales, you're looking for things such as virtual sales rep or GP, and primary care sales. In marketing, you want to search for the term associate brand manager or associate product manager. Clinical research, you're looking for the search term clinical trials assistant. Regulatory, you're looking for regulatory affairs associate. Medical affairs, so for the office-based role, you're just looking for medical affairs associate, or sometimes they're called scientific excellence. The field-based MSL role, unless you've completed a PhD or an MD, I have rarely seen anyone with no pharmaceutical experience go straight into an MSL role. So I would refrain from applying for the MSL role if I'm someone brand new to the industry without a PhD and MD. And that is often where you find you will be ghosted. But don't worry, I have a solution for you. Click the link here and I'll show you another avenue to get into becoming an MSL. Now, medical information, you're looking for something like medical information specialist. And for pharmacovigilance, you're looking for drug or product safety associate. Now let's assume you've already done step 1, you've tidied up your resume, you've highlighted the transferable skills, you've done step 2, you've either applied for a grad program or entry-level roles, and unfortunately still no luck. This is where I would highly advise you progress to step 3, which is networking. Luckily, in the pharmaceutical industry, we have a plethora of recruiters who are both willing and capable to help you land your first role in the industry. From Sophia and her team at Hengenhurst to Molly at iPharm and Natalia at the HPG group, you got plenty of choices, so connect, reach out to them, tell them you've watched this video, tell them I sent you, and I'm sure they'll look after you. And it is their job to help you find your next role. They will help you polish your resume, they will do interview practice with you, they'll even give you insights into what a day in the life of whatever role you're looking for looks like. So I would highly encourage you to look out for some of these recruiters. How do you do this? Let me show you. Log on to LinkedIn, search for one of these recruiting firms, click on the company, click on the jobs tab, scroll down, and you can see all the job vacancies and when they were posted. So currently there's an MSL role going, there's a therapeutic lead, hospital specialist, territory manager, account manager. Let's pretend I'm applying for this hospital key account manager role. So what you will see here is Sarah Jane is the person responsible for recruiting. And if you click this icon here, message, I would reach out to her, introduce myself, let her know a little bit about the transferable skills that I bring to the role after reading the job description, of course, and then ask to connect with her either virtually or via phone call. Now that covers off external recruiters, but often jobs for some of the larger pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, they don't go through these recruiters as they will use their own internal recruitment teams to advertise these jobs. Luckily, most of these will come up on LinkedIn. Everything's on LinkedIn these days, but it's also advisable to reach out and connect with some of the talent partners in these organizations. Follow them so you can keep up to date when new roles are being advertised. So you might be wondering, how do you find these people? Well, it's easy. Again, let me show you on LinkedIn. Let's go to the home page. Let's type talent acquisition AstraZeneca. Okay, so the first person is here. Her role is Talent Acquisition Delivery Lead for AstraZeneca, Australia, New Zealand. So that's what we want. Quick look of her experience. Here, she even says, interested in a career with AstraZeneca. Get in touch. Perfect. This is the person we want to be connected with. Reach out to her, introduce yourself. And again, if you look at their posts, sometimes you will see, maybe I'm not connected with this person so I can't see, but they will often post the adverts direct from their profile as well. Now, you must be wondering, what is my last controversial tip? And that is, if you are looking for an entry-level role into the pharmaceutical industry, going back to uni and studying another degree, I'm seeing things like Bachelor of Pharmaceutical Science, Masters in Pharmacy Practice. It's my belief that you do not need to go and study these. If you've already done them, great. That's probably going to give you a head start. But if you've got a business marketing degree, you already have an advantage to go into sales and marketing. If you have a pharmacy and nursing degree, you already have an advantage to get into the medical stream. So I do not believe getting another degree is going to increase your chances of getting into industry. And I will quote Tim Ferriss on this in his book, Tools of Titans. He recalls interviewing one of the world's best chefs who has a student that comes to him and says, "Sir, I want to become the world's best chef, just like you. I found an excellent cooking school in Paris. It's going to cost me $50,000 over 2 years. After I complete that, will you take me as your protege?" And the chef replies to him, "Look, I'm going to be frank with you. You have two options. Number one, do you see that bucket over there with the potatoes? Go over there, start washing the potatoes, start peeling them. Or you can go off to the cooking school for 2 years, spend your $50,000 and come back to me. I'll accept you, but I will still make you go to that sink, wash the potatoes, peel them. The choice is really yours." And that resonated a lot with me because in pharma, experience often does trump education. And I say that because it's one thing to learn and read about it, but it's a completely different story when you go off and do it. You can read all the books you want about hitting the perfect forehand in tennis, but unless you're on the court holding the racket, hitting hundreds, 200, 300, 400 balls, you're never going to see improvement in your forehand or improvement as a tennis player if you just sit in the books. So to conclude, I highly encourage you to do that self-assessment, think about your moat, your competitive advantage, then follow the 3 steps. Number 1, tidy up your resume, highlight those transferable skills that I talked about. Number 2, just start applying. Don't delay. Get your resume out there in front of as many eyeballs as you can, but make sure it's for entry-level roles because otherwise you are going to get ghosted. Thirdly, reach out to recruiters. They are there to help you. And even if they can't get you your first entry-level role, having a relationship with them may come around to help you later on in your career. Now, if you found this content useful, please hit the like button, give us a thumbs up. I'm thinking my next video should be on how to ace your interview. If you're interested in this content, please comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.